The legislature is back in session. Speaker Cruz, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move to have the body accept Bill 15-34 as substituted. That's the one that looks like a regular bill. And I've also circulated a copy of the bill with the amendments on the side so that everybody understands that this bill as substituted addresses the concerns that were raised earlier on by a couple of our colleagues. I've also included a funding and a funding source in more specifically so that there is a cap. There was a concern about having a cap and an amount and limiting the governor's ability to be able to move anything now, transferring at this point. So I'm hoping that with the amendments on page 3 and page 1 that the bill is acceptable to everybody and that we can move it down. But I wanted to give the two senators that had concerns about the bill, if this is still not satisfactory, I could answer any questions as to why the bill was rewritten the way that it was rewritten. I've included a copy of the amended, with the amendments on the side and the comments in the little boxes to make sure that everybody understands what was amended and why it was amended. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. On the motion to accept Bill number 15-34 COR with a substitute version that has been distributed to all members titled Bill number 15-34 as substituted on the floor. Hearing no objections? Vice Speaker, you're recognized. Hearing no objections? Motion carries. Speaker Cruz, you're recognized.
On the motion to move it down to voting file, I'd like to make a motion to send it down to voting file, and I hope I have the support of my colleagues and no objection. Thank you very much.
On the motion to place Bill 15 as substituted on the floor into the third reading file. Hearing no objection. Vice Speaker, you are recognized. Speaker Chalahi, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would just like to ensure that authorizing in advance of the FY18 budget that we're going to appropriate $300,000, or we're going to identify a funding source for this $300,000 for the study, that by doing that, I don't know, I'm concerned about this language on page 3, line, beginning on the end of line 7, it says, no construction of any executive branch, department, and agency office space in Hagåtña, except for those enumerated in section 3, shall commence until 90 days after the submission of the study. I just want to make sure that this bill does not unintentionally authorize that construction, because as far as I am not aware, maybe the author can also answer whether there is any authorization for said construction. And so I would, and if not, then I'm hoping that we don't inadvertently authorize that construction by this language, and I'd just like to add a sentence that says, nothing herein shall authorize the construction. So perhaps after that line that ends with the 90 days after the submission of the study to the Speaker of the Legislature in Guahan, after that add another sentence that says nothing in this act shall authorize the construction of any executive branch department agency office in Hagåtña. Is that consistent with the intent of this bill? Or are you aware, I mean, is the author aware of any other independent authorization for construction of this building?
I'm
Speaker
not.
Cruz, do you yield to the
I
question?
yield. Thank you very much for the question. I am not sure, but with the excitement that they had about the OPA audit and her recommendation, I was afraid earlier this year that they would run away with the idea that maybe they could get HRRA to move it forward. I thought that having a shall not commence before we've had 90 days to review it and act on it would be sufficient. But if the Vice Speaker feels that it's necessary to include the additional language, I'd have no problem with it.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I would make that motion, Madam Speaker, to add one more sentence at the end of line 11 that says, or after Guahan on line 11, to add a new sentence that says, nothing herein shall authorize the construction of any executive branch department and agency office space in Hagåtña.
On the Terlahi amendment to add on page 3, line 11, this language, would any member like to speak? Senator Esteves, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd just like to request a short recess to discuss with legal counsel on the amendment and the Vice Speaker.
We'll take a short recess. Members, we are back in session. Senator Esteves, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. After conferring with legal counsel at this time, I do rise in support of the amendment. Thank you.
Vice Speaker Chalahi? Would any other member like to speak on the Chalahi amendment? Vice Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So just to reiterate and maybe finesse the language, I'm adding the sentence at the end of Section 2 to read, "Nothing in this act shall be construed so as to authorize the construction of any executive branch department and agency office space in Hagåtña." Thank you, Madam Speaker.
On the Chalahi amendment, any objection? Senator Espaldon, you are recognized.
I'm sorry, was that a closing on her amendment?
Yes. On the Chalahi amendment, any other member wish to speak? On the Chalahi amendment, hearing no objection. Motion carries. Would any other member wish to speak on the bill? Vice Speaker, you're recognized.
Thank you. I would just like to continue with just one more point, and I just want to put on the record that I want to thank the sponsor for the changes. I think the changes really add benefit to the government of Guam in this bill. And on page 1 on line 10, it still says they were going to do a cost beneficial, shall determine if it is cost beneficial to the government of Guam to relocate all or some of the executive branch department and agency office spaces. So just to point out that this still does not include legislative office spaces or any other branch. And this all or some, I think that it's going to give them a hard time narrowing the scope of this cost-benefit analysis. But if it's possible, I guess we'll see that. So, but I'm not sure myself how to narrow that. So, but I just want to put that on the record. So we're giving them the opportunity, I guess, to really only analyze some. And so I hope that that will be sufficient for our purposes afterward. And thank you. And thank you again to the sponsor of this bill, Mr. Speaker. I think the changes are very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. On the motion to place Bill 15 to the third reading file, any other member wish to speak? On the motion to place Bill